The Tears of Gaia by Redback Spino. Chapter 22 of Herbalism and Meetings. Fluttershy yawned quietly. She snuck out of the cottage where she and her friends spent the night, wincing as the door closed with a creak slightly louder than she expected. Granted, it was hardly early in the morning, but the others were sleeping so peacefully after the festivities of the previous night, she did not dare disturb them. And if she had still been sleeping from last night, a deep breath of crisp morning air cleared her head right up. The trees, usually glowing gently, were sparkling and glistening in the morning dew.
If the trees could make a sound, she thought, I bet this would sound like 1,000 tiny bells.
But as she started out to meet up with Yarrow for breakfast, her stomach began to flutter just as a thought of it. She remembered something. She had no idea where he lived.
Oh, Fluttershy,
She muttered to herself angrily.
You airhead! You should have asked him where you could find him.
She wandered around the platform for a bit until she found herself on the edge, where two walkways branched off from it, one leading upwards and the other downwards. Picking randomly, she opted for the upper walkway and headed to the higher platform. Aside from a few deer going about morning job, the train city seemed eerily silent. Ah! Grease it on, and Fluttershy! She jumped slightly as a voice called broke through the silence.
What's that?
She spun around on the spot, but saw with some disappointment that it was not Yarrow coming to greet her, but simply another deer out and about that morning. A stag of middle age, his reddish-brown fur showing the first signs of gray. He bowed his head to her as he passed.
Oh,
She bowed back.
good morning.
She replied, hoping that she had said the right thing. The stag's smile relieved her was somewhat, and she apparently had not offended him. What brings you to our platform? He asked, stopping beside her. As lovely as it is, it's not much more than a handful of houses.
Actually, I was looking for someone, she replied. By any chance, do you know a stag named Yarrow? I was supposed to meet him for breakfast.
He nodded. Ah, Yarrow. Yes, I know him. Nice young fellow. He lives on the next platform up. Third house on the left. The stag pointed his antlers to another platform, connected to the tree trunk just above the right that was one Fluttershy stood on. While the platform she stood on was broad and round, with the buildings arranged in a ring, with a nice white space in the center, the one above was more narrow, with the buildings laid out more like a twin street, with buildings on either side of the long path.
Oh, thank you,
Fluttershy said, smiling as he hurried toward the walkway to connect the two. Oh, and Fluttershy! She stopped a moment and turned back to the stag. He grinned and called, The correct deer's reply is Mei Guofen, or well met, in your language, just so you know for the future. She nodded in thanks and headed for the walkway.
Oh, I hope I'm not late.
At last she found a small cottage that Yarrow apparently called home. It was a fairly simple affair. A thatched roofed bungalow of shimmering silver wood, similar to the house where she and her friends slept, but smaller. In front of it was a small garden filled with all manners of plants and flowers. Coming closer, Fluttershy could see that all of them were some sort of herb, many of which were known for medicinal properties. Most prominent was, big surprise, the feathered leaves and white, pink, and red clusters of tiny flowers that made up the plant of Yarrow's namesake.
Yarrow, a potent diuretic, antiseptic, and antistringent, also known to be useful in treating cuts and bruises.
She recited under her breath. It was a passage from an old herbal medicine book she got from Twilight as a birthday present one year. You know your herbalism, Fluttershy. Impressive. Fluttershy jumped again as he heard her voice.
How many does that have to happen today?
Her racing heart was not helped by who she saw in the doorway. Leaning casually onto the doorframe and smiling broadly was Yarrow. Leave alone, Fluttershy, he said with a bow. Fluttershy steadied herself once more and bowed back, smiling.
My Gavum, Yarrow.
His eyebrow raised slightly in surprise. Ah, you have been learning our language too. Very impressive. Fluttershy blushed, saying modestly,
Thank you, Yarrow. I just learned it now, actually. I passed some deer on my way here. They pointed out the way for me to go.
Yes, that was forgetful of me, he replied, knocking himself on the head with a hoof. Inviting you to join me for a meal, then not even telling you where I live. No matter. You're here now, so please, do come in. He stepped aside. Fluttershy followed him through the doorway. Inside was a small and a little bit cramped, but terribly cozy. Just like her cottage, there was a general central room with a smaller room on the sides. But instead of a large table surrounded by couches, the middle room was split down the middle. One end was a simple setup of a pair of small couches on a table, and a small kitchen to the left of it, but the other end was dominated by large shelves that lined the walls, with a table in the center covered in glass bottles, alembics, vials, tubes, and a small metal tube with a glass bottle on either end. A simple distillation apparatus. The shelves were filled with jars, bottles, and filled with all manner of plants of all sizes and shapes. Stems, seeds, leaves, flowers, bottles of essential oils, jars of thick paste, and every other form was stacked neatly and meticulously on the shelves.
Yarrow, what is all this?
Herbal medicine, Fluttershy, he replied, gesturing to the simple laboratory he had set up in the room. Sure, a lot of illnesses and ailments can be cured with our magic. But even the magic of the deer folk need help sometimes, and those plants work outside where my garden. Please, take a seat. I'll prepare some tea.
Oh, would you like me to help?
No, it's all right. You just take a seat and I'll get it, Hero said, horns shivering as he levitated a jar from the shelves, labeled Darjeeling, skipping a few spoonfuls of aromatic oils into a small kettle and setting it to boil. Do you take milk with your tea or sugar?
Both, please.
Fluttershy replied. She sniffed the air as the smell of tea wafted over her.
Mm-hmm. This smells lovely. What is it?
It's a very special kind of tea, called Darjeeling. On occasion we have traveling merchants visit us from other lands to trade goods. One of them had this, a special kind of tea plant all from away from Kamil. He said it was grown in the foothills of the Himalaya mountains. According to him, it's the finest tea in the world, and after I tried a sip of it, I definitely agree. Within seconds, the teapot was ready, and Yarrow carried it to the table, pouring out a cup for him and Fluttershy, adding milk and a spoonful of sugar. She blew foot on it and definitely took a sip. Her eyes went wide and gasped.
Oh, my goodness, this is delicious. It's all musky and a little bit spicy. This is wonderful. Thank you.
Yarrow smiled. I'm glad you like it. You go ahead and drink as much as you want, and I'll prepare us some food. How does some fresh salad sound for you?
Sounds perfect.
She replied. A quick trip to the herb garden, and a vegetable bowl, and some skillful knife work later, and Yarrow prepared a simple salad of crisp lettuce, chives, vanilla, tomatoes, and raisins, which the two of them dug in with eagerness born of a morning hunger. They ate in silence, but it was not an awkward silence, where neither knew what to say. Tell me, reader, have you ever had such a moment? And tell me, listener, have you ever had such a moment where you and another person could be together in silence, but a comfortable silence, since both of you knew nothing needed to be said? Well, Mr. Ryer, I could say that I haven't ever had that moment because I'm a very talkative person. I mean, I just talk, 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 talk. Get on with it! Yes, Trixie! It was that, such silence. Both of them simply sat across from the table from each other, enjoying a fresh, crispy salad, some tea, and each other's company. If nothing else, the tea seemed to calm the butterflies in her stomach for the time being. For what may have been the first time, Fluttershy felt completely calm around him, as opposed to a nervous wreck. So, Fluttershy, Yarrow said, breaking the silence at last, tell me about yourself.
Huh?
She looked up, wiping away a stray raisin that was stuck to her cheek. Well, it seems I know much about you and your friends, and your adventures together, but not much about you personally. I'd very much like to get to know you better, he replied, leaning slightly forward in his seat. She paused slightly.
Oh, okay. What would you like to know?
Anything, really. What you do, where you live in Equestria, just anything interesting about you. She took another sip of tea. If nothing else, to hide her flushed face as something dawned on her.
Is this a date? Well, I live in a town called Ponyville, along with all my other friends. They mostly live inside the town, but I have a cottage that's on the outskirts.
And so they passed the morning. First I told him about Ponyville, about her cottage, her animals, her job as Ponyville's go-to animal expert vet, the story of her cutie mark. No matter how many times he insisted it was nothing too special, so Yarrow listened with rapt attention and curiosity. He had rarely ventured beyond the forest border, and he had never been to Equestria.
What about you?
Fluttershy asked as she finished.
What do you do as a Vanas?
Yarrow put down his tea. Well, as you can see, I'm an herbalist, in case you haven't guessed yet. But herbal medicine isn't just a hobby, it's my trade. Ever since I've learned what my name means, I've been fascinated by the healing powers of plants, so I've learned quite a lot.
Gosh, Sakura would probably like you.
Fluttershy replied, giggling. Seeing the confused look on his face, he had,
Oh, she's a zebra who lives near Ponyville. She knows a lot about herbs and plants as well, just like you. If you ever come to Ponyville, I must introduce you to her.
As he trailed off, as he was flooded of memories of Ponyville. Her cottage, animals, all the friends who were still there. Fluttershy? Yarrow asked, his keen ears picking up the near silent sniffles. Are you all right?
I'm fine, Yarrow, she replied. It's just that I've only been away from Ponyville for a few weeks, but with everything that's happened, it feels so much longer.
Her sniffles gave way to giant little whispers. Yarrow understood right away, getting up from his couch and coming to stand beside her. You're homesick? Fluttershy nodded.
I, I just, I've been in so much danger so many times on this journey. Can't even count how many times I've already nearly been. What if something happens to me? What would my little animal friends do?
She bowed her head, Mane hiding her face as she sobbed. Yarrow felt his spirits fall as he watched. Still unsure of himself, he hesitantly knelt down beside her and wrapped his forelegs around her shoulders, holding her gently against his chest. Fluttershy gasped as he felt him hugging her. The fur on his chest was slightly pricky, but soft and comforting as well, with a faint musky, earthy smell. He was warm as well.
He's hugging me. He's hugging me. He's hugging me. He's hugging me.
Yarrow smiled with relief as her sobbing seemed to die down. Her face held her for a bit longer before letting her go. Forehead still resting on her shoulders, the two of them looking into each other's eyes. It's going to be okay, Fluttershy. And I swear to you now, by the trees of my home, I swear that you will be okay. Her face was flushed bright red. Her heart was racing. Fluttershy didn't care. She leaned in close to him.
Promise?
Their faces were nearly touching. Yarrow gulped as she came closer, eyes closing. He leaned in as well, closing his eyes. He could feel her breath against his face. She could feel the warmth radiating off his lips. But the tender moment was broken now as a call rang across the sea.
Expletive deleted!
They both leapt back as they heard it. A short song in Darius that echoed throughout the austere from somewhere higher above. Ah, that'll be the commander's meeting, Yarrow said, hastily regaining his breath and clearing his thoughts. It did little to clear the blushing, though. Fluttershy nodded.
Yes, I heard what we're already talking about today. We better go meet the others, so we can find out how it goes.
Yes, we should. Yarrow coughed, clearing the distance and comes away from his tunic. Shall we then? He gestured to the door. Fluttershy headed back out to the herb garden. Once Yarrow had locked the door, the two of them headed down the walkway, towards the platform where the rest of the ponies were situated. Both now blushing furiously, neither dared to speak up after what almost happened. The distance was so thick it was almost palatable. So much for a not awkward silence. On one of the highest platforms in the austere, just below the sanctuary where Reinhardt lived, stood a small enclosure, surrounded by twisting branches and vines that formed a low wall. Inside the enclosure stood a round table surrounded by 5 chairs, where the commander's meeting was taking place. The White Hart himself sat in one chair, he alone representing his people. His golden crown rested on the table beside him, as a sign that he did not hold superiority over any other who sat with him. King Gideon, his son Gordon, and Commander Gellert sat in the chairs beside him, their helmets removed and placed respectfully on the table in a similar gesture. Rarity found herself squeezed between Gellert and Gordon, and placed her helmet on the table as well. Fellow commanders, friends, Whiteheart said, first of all, I would like to extend my gratitude to you all. Even though we may not always see eye to eye, your assistance has proved indispensable in fending off Findom's threat. And for that, I am eternally grateful. He bowed his head, and Rarity bowed back. The 3 griffins nodded as well, albeit slightly stiffer. He continued, but now that brings us to the most important question. What do we do next? I think we may be getting ahead of ourselves a tad, Gideon responded. Before we make any decisions, we should know what is going on. Gellert, you set trackers to follow the fleeing blight. Have they had any success at monitoring them? Gellert nodded. I have, you majesty. He stooped below the table a moment and pulled out a large sheet of parchment with a simple map drawn on it out of a small bag he had brought with him, detailing the area surrounding Servadas. With a stick of charcoal, he marked the line of the map, starting at Servadas, trailing south down the map, past forests and mountains, until it reached a large black dot. Our scouts followed them since they left the forest, and been tracking them for a while now. They're pretty scared, what with the route and all, but they all seem to be heading south, towards this point. Whiteheart looked over the map, as he recognized the position of the black dot. His expression darkened. Brzaka.
Beg pardon?
Verity asked. It's what they call it, to find them. It is their stronghold, their grand fortress, the nightmare city of Brzaka.
How do you know that?
Because I have seen it before, he replied, his voice deepening ever so slightly as the barest hint of anger presented its expression on his face. He sat in silence, all eyes watching them.
Um, Your Majesty,
Verity leaned forward, speaking gently.
are you all right?
I am fine, Verity, thank you, he replied, his dour mood lifting slightly. Forgive me, I was reminiscing. I have somewhat of a history with these creatures. We all do, Geralt replied. We all have our own personal reasons to want to take down the Blight, but we must concentrate on the bigger picture. They're demoralized and scared for now, but these monsters are like a army of army ants. You can scare them and send them running all over the place, but before too long they'll be back in line again, ready to devour anything in their path. So it's vital we do something about them before they have a chance to regroup, Gordon added, imitating his father. Rarity raised her hoof.
But what is even this Berserker place?
It is a massive fortress, Whiteheart replied, his voice obviously level. A castle of iron and stone built out of the hollowed-out mountain. It was built thousands of years ago by the servants of the Blight, to house and protect the source of that foul disease. Which is why we need to act, Gellert added. Destroy them at their source. Cut out the head and the body will die. You know what I mean?
A rather grim analogy, but I understand, Rarity replied. And I'm assuming live and let live is out of the question.
Whiteheart nodded. Absolutely. The Fundum is not something that can be reasoned or bargained with. They are not some revolutionaries or simple invaders. The Fundum is like a plague, a disease. You might as well be trying to combat the flu by trying to reason with it, said Gideon. So what say you, Whiteheart? Do we attack the Blight and their source once and for all? He pondered for a moment. It will be a dangerous attack. My entire kingdom will be at risk. But then again, if we do not, if we simply let the Fundum amass again in return, it may spell certain doom for us all.
Agreed, Rarity replied. I know I'm not exactly an expert on armies or military things. Well, aside from those stylish uniforms anyway. But it would make sense to attack them now, when they are at their weakest. And speaking personally, even if my friends and I returned home, I wouldn't feel safe, knowing that those beasts are still out there.
Oh, absolutely, added Gideon. Well said, Commander Rarity. So then, we have a plan. Muster our forces, march on this Versaka place, and destroy the Blight once and for all! Removing the threat of them regaining their strength or for aiding forever. All in favor? I am with you, father, Gordon said without a trace of hesitation. Gideon smiled at his son. Gareth threw his start to salute. My hawks are ready at your command, Majesty. What say you, Rarity?
Rarity stood up and threw a salute as well. I'd hardly be living up to my rank if I said no. I can't speak for my friends, of course, but you can count me in.
The Whiteheart stood up as well. And I as well. It is time to cleanse the world of these monsters. My dear folk will fight alongside you, King Gideon. He extended a pure white forehoof, and Gideon took in a claw, and they shook. Then we have an alliance, it seems. Ha! I never thought I'd see the day. Just don't disappoint me, brat's head, he added with a grin. Just as long as you can keep up, Featherface. Whiteheart quipped back. So then, we are agreed. When can you have your soldiers ready to go? Give us until tomorrow morning to rest, repair our armors and weapons, and we'll be good to go! Sounds good, he replied, turning to the entire group. Whiteheart proclaimed. So is it agreed? Come daybreak tomorrow, we march upon Berserka.
Seriously, Fluttershy, are you okay? You've done nothing but blush since you got back. Hey, here he comes!
The 6 ponies, who had been waiting outside the enclosure, stood up as they saw the branches that formed the enclosure right in bed, forming a doorway on the enclosed area. Gellert, Gideon, and Gordon left and headed for the lower branches where their fellow Griffins were perched, to spread the news for tomorrow. And behind them came Rarity. Twilight tried to decipher the look on her face.
I wonder what they were talking about. Oh, I hope it went well!
Pinkie Pie squeaked, hopping into spot anticipation. So, Rarity, Starskull asked, tipping his wide-brimmed hat to the approaching unicorn. How was the meeting? Did you come to a conclusion?
We did,
Rarity replied, but she scuffed the dirt nervously as she continued.
Now, I have some possibly good news and some possibly bad news.
Well, let's hear the possible good news first, said Applejack. What's the plan, Layers?
Well, Garrett said the head scouts have discovered exactly where these beastly bite creatures were all heading. Apparently, it's a massive fortress that the Blight have built out of a mountain, and apparently it's the home of the source of the Blight as well.
The source? Twilight echoed. You mean where the Blight first came from, like in the story?
I suppose so,
Rarity continued, as the assembled ponies headed down the walkways to their cottage.
So their plan is to amass their forces and attack the fortress. Take them down while they are at their weakest and all.
Sounds like a plan to me, Rainbow Dash replied. So, what's the bad news?
Well, Rarity came to a stop. You see, with me being a commander in the Griffin army and all.
Wits, I'm still having trouble wrapping my head around, Rainbow muttered. Rarity saw her glare, then continued.
With me being a commander, it's my duty to lead them in battle. So, I'm going to have to go with them.
She could see her friends' faces fall as they news hit them.
Now, I made it clear to them that I didn't speak to all of you. If you don't feel that you want to be a part of this, you don't have to come with me. You're free to make the journey home without me if you want.
Don't be silly, Rarity. She looked to Twilight, who was frowning back at her. We can't go abandoning you at a time like this. Yeah, don't you think you're going to hog all the glory there, Commander? Rainbow added, landing down beside her. You can count me in. Well, me too. I'm just as eager to see them black creatures get the what for once and for all. Applejack stood on Rarity's other side.
And how are we going to have a victory party if I'm not there? Vicky cried. I'm coming too.
Starswirl bowed before Rarity. I swore to the princesses that when I was resurrected, I would guide and protect you ponies. You have my word as well.
And my axe!
All eyes turned to Pinky, who paused fastly.
I don't know. It sounded right. What about you, Fluttershy? You in?
Fluttershy's ears perked up as the sound of her name brought her back to reality.
Oh, well, I'd rather not get caught up in any more fighting, but, well, I guess I want to see this end as much as you girls. Count me in.
She said with a firm stamp of her hoof. Well, there you have it, Rarity, Twilight said, turning back to the unicorn. We're coming back with you to see this through to the end.
But what about the tears? I thought we wanted to keep it away from the blight,
Rarity asked. Applejack nodded. She's got a good point. What are you going to do about it? Twilight took the lacquered box out of her bag. The other ponies had been leaving their bags in the cottage, but whenever she went out, Twilight had taken hers. Something about the idea of leaving the jewel alone made her feel uneasy. Well, it may be kind of dangerous to bring it that close to them, but, well, I really don't feel comfortable leaving it alone. I prefer to hold on to it. Rainbow Dash shrugged. Well then, I guess we'll just have to not get captured this time. Applejack rolled her eyes. Easier said than done.
Well then, we leave for the fortress tomorrow morning. Whatever happens, at least we'll be together,
Rarity said, to a murmur agreement from the others.
So, there's a bright side to this whole matter if I ever saw one. Not to mention, Fluttershy, I have some good news for you. Oh yes, apparently almost all the deer folk are part of this attack. So, at least you'll have your dear dashing stag friend to keep you company.
Rarity galloped ahead, giggling as Fluttershy chased after her, the pig's face flushing redder than a tomato. Here joined the merry chase around the walkway, and Starswirl rolled his eyes. I fear I shall never understand mares.